The myth of movie battles. Greater than, you've seen it in movies, a lone warrior charging into a swarm of enemies, swinging his sword in wide arcs, never getting tired, never breaking formation, and somehow surviving. But here's the truth, real battles in the ancient and medieval world look nothing like that. Forget Hollywood. Let's dive into how soldiers actually fought, from the Greek phalanx to the medieval knight, and why real warfare was brutal, strategic, and anything but glamorous. 2 o'clock 0:45 to 2 o'clock ancient combat was all about formation. Greater than, let's start with ancient warfare, Greeks, Romans, Persians. These armies didn't fight as individuals, they fought as units. Take the Greek phalanx. Warriors stood shoulder to shoulder, shields locked, spears pointed forward. No flashy moves, just discipline and pressure. The goal, push the enemy back and break their line. You didn't swing wildly. You jabbed, controlled, coordinated thrusts. And the Roman legionaries, same deal. Tight formations like the testudo tortoise formation, short stabbing swords gladius, and a system that relied on unit rotation. Soldiers weren't superheroes, they were cogs in a deadly machine. 2 o'clock to 3:30 one-on-one duels were rare and stupid. Greater than, movies love duels, the lone hero facing 10 enemies one by one. Real battle, you had no time for that. In the chaos of war, you never wanted to get caught alone. That meant you were dead. Soldiers relied on their comrades, left, right, behind. And armor wasn't just for show. It was heavy, yes, but essential. You didn't dodge sword strikes, you absorbed them. Most attacks didn't even cut, they bruised, crushed, or caused internal injuries. 4 o'clock 3:30 to 5 o'clock medieval warfare, messy, brutal, and tactical. Greater than, fast forward to the Middle Ages. Knights in shining armor, right. They're shown charging into dozens of men, slicing left and right. Reality. Knights were trained in mounted combat, yes, but their main use was shock value, charging with a group, not alone. And no, swords weren't lightsabers. Against armor, swords were often ineffective. So fighters used blunt weapons like maces or war hammers to crush, not cut. Battles like Agincourt or Hastings weren't beautiful choreography, they were muddy, crowded, and exhausting. Most soldiers died from being trampled, suffocated, or hit by projectiles before ever seeing who killed them. 5 o'clock to 6:30 real training, real fatigue. Greater than, ancient and medieval warriors were trained to endure, not entertain. Combat was physically grueling. You wore 30 to 60 pounds of armor, carried weapons, and fought for minutes that felt like hours. Fatigue was a killer. That's why formations rotated soldiers out, so no one fought for too long. Archers. They trained for years to pull 100-plus pound longbows. You don't just pick that up like in a fantasy movie. 6 o'clock 6:30 to 7:30 the psychological side of battle. Voiceover. Greater than, imagine standing in a line, shoulder to shoulder, hearing thousands of feet stomping toward you. Your heart is pounding. You know one mistake could mean death, not just yours, but your comrades'. Most deaths happened after the battle line broke, when one side panicked and ran. That's when slaughter happened. So much of real warfare wasn't about sword skill, it was about discipline, morale, and knowing when not to fight. So next time you see a movie warrior spinning around and taking out 10 guys in plate armor, just remember. Real soldiers weren't heroes in a spotlight. They were parts of a system. They fought to survive, to protect, to win, not to entertain. And when you strip away the slow-mo and the soundtrack, you're left with something far more human and far more terrifying. Check mark bonus tips 4. Visuals. Overlay visuals of real historical reenactments, illustrations, and expert commentary. Include side-by-side comparisons of movie fights versus real tactics. Use maps and diagrams of formations, phalanx, testudo, shield wall. Add subtle battle sounds in the background, clanging metal, shouting, marching, for immersion. Would you like this turned into a full, word-for-word voiceover script with timestamps?